In the quaint university town of Oxford, England, where ancient spires pierced the sky and the River Thames whispered secrets to the willows, lived a young woman named Ella. It was the spring of her 18th year, a time when the world seemed alive with possibilities. Ella was the epitome of youthful beauty. Her raven hair cascaded like a midnight waterfall, her emerald eyes sparkled with an untamed spirit, and her smile could light up the gloomiest lecture hall. She was the undisputed queen of her college, turning heads wherever she went. Boys from every corner of the campus were utterly smitten, devising elaborate schemes to win her affection. They slipped notes into her locker, called her from anonymous numbers, and professed their undying friendship in the corridors. But Ella, with her fierce independence and dreams bigger than the confines of youthful crushes, turned them all away. "I'm not ready for games," she'd say with a polite but firm shake of her head. Her focus was on her studies, on carving a path for herself in a world that demanded more from women like her. One crisp autumn morning, as leaves danced in the wind outside the lecture hall, Ella encountered Professor Edward Harrington. He was 35, a distinguished scholar of literature with a voice like velvet and eyes that held the depth of forgotten poems. His lectures on Shakespeare and Austen were legendary, drawing students in with their passion and insight. Ella, seated in the front row, found herself captivated not just by his words, but by the man himself. After class, she lingered to ask a question about pride and prejudice, and their conversation flowed effortlessly into the afternoon. Numbers were exchanged under the guise of academic guidance, but soon late-night calls became a ritual. Edward's stories of his travels, his love for classic novels, and his gentle humor chipped away at Ella's defenses. What began as innocent chats evolved into confessions of the heart. "You've awakened something in me, Ella," he whispered one evening over the phone. "Something I thought was lost forever." Their love blossomed in secret, a forbidden flower in the garden of academia. Edward, with his worldly experience, made Ella feel seen and cherished in ways the boys her age never could. He helped her with her English paper one rainy afternoon in his office, guiding her through complex analyses and grammar intricacies she had always struggled with. Thanks to his tutelage, she scored top marks, her confidence soaring. "You did this," she told him gratefully, her hand brushing his. Their bond deepened, pulling them closer with an irresistible gravity. Stolen moments turned into passionate embraces, and one fateful night, under the cover of stars in his modest flat overlooking the river, Edward made her his in every sense, without the vows of marriage, but with promises whispered in the heat of the moment. Ella felt like a bride in a dream, her heart overflowing with joy. From then on, they met every week, weaving a tapestry of intimacy and affection that felt eternal. But life, as it often does, threw a cruel twist. A few months into their affair, Ella discovered she was pregnant. Panic gripped her as she stared at the test in her dormitory bathroom. She had never imagined this, her youth, her dreams, all hanging in the balance. Trembling, she called Edward and poured out the truth. "We have to get married," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "It's the only way." But Edward's response shattered her world. "Marriage isn't for me, Ella," he said coolly. "We can continue as we are. I'll support you discreetly." She argued desperately, explaining the stigma of illegitimate children in their conservative society, how it would tarnish her reputation, make life unbearable for her and the child. Whispers in the halls, judgmental stares from family and friends. The thought alone made her ill. "Our love should be enough," he insisted, unmoved by her tears. Edward's refusal revealed a selfishness she hadn't seen before, a man more in love with his freedom than with her. Devastated and alone, Ella made the hardest decision of her life. She ended things with Edward, blocking his number and avoiding his lectures. With a heavy heart, she visited a quiet clinic on the outskirts of town where she underwent an abortion. The procedure left her physically and emotionally scarred, a void where hope had once bloomed. She withdrew from college temporarily, quitting her part-time job at the campus cafe to escape the memories that haunted every corner. Moving into a small, solitary flat in a quieter part of Oxford, Ella rebuilt her walls, vowing never to let anyone shatter her again. Days blurred into nights of solitude, filled with books and quiet reflection, as she grappled with the ruins of her first love. As the academic year resumed, Ella faced another hurdle, her mathematics exam, a subject that had always eluded her grasp. Equations swam before her eyes like foreign languages. Desperate, she sought help, but fate, or perhaps irony, brought Edward back into her orbit. He cornered her after a seminar, his eyes gleaming with manipulation. "I can make sure you pass," he murmured, "but you know what I want in return." Blackmail hung in the air like a storm cloud, a demand to resume their illicit meetings. Ella's stomach churned at the thought. She had already lost her dignity once. She wouldn't surrender it again. "No," she said firmly, walking away with her head held high, even as fear gnawed at her about failing the course. It was then that Professor Samuel Thorne entered her life, a kind-hearted mathematics lecturer in his early 40s, with salt-and-pepper hair and a warm, reassuring smile. Samuel noticed Ella's struggles during office hours. Unlike Edward, he offered help without strings, patient explanations, extra practice sessions, and encouragement that rebuilt her shattered confidence. Under his guidance, she not only passed her math paper, but excelled, earning praise from her peers. Gratitude turned to admiration as they spent more time together. Samuel's integrity, his stories of his late wife's battle with illness, and his genuine care for his students touched Ella deeply. Their conversations shifted from theorems to life, dreams, and eventually the stirrings of affection. One evening, as the sun set over the spires, Samuel asked to meet her alone at a cozy tea room by the river. Ella's heart raced, but she remembered her past scars. "If you want to pursue this," she said steadily, looking into his eyes, "you must marry me. I won't settle for less. I deserve commitment." Samuel paused, his expression softening with understanding. He had his own hesitations, a widower with a quiet life, but Ella's strength and vulnerability moved him. "Then let's build a future together," he replied, taking her hand. They courted properly, with walks in the parks and introductions to families. Within months, they exchanged vows in a small chapel surrounded by blooming roses, a simple ceremony that felt like a promise of healing. Now, years later, Ella and Samuel live in a charming cottage on the edge of Oxford, their home filled with laughter and love. They have 2 beautiful children, a spirited son named Oliver, who at 8 years old dreams of becoming an astronaut, and a curious daughter, Lily, 5 years young, with her mother's emerald eyes and a penchant for storytelling. Samuel continues teaching, inspiring the next generation, while Ella pursues her passion for writing, penning novels about resilience and second chances. Their days are woven with simple joys, family dinners, weekend picnics by the Thames, and bedtime stories under the stars. Edward faded into a distant memory, a lesson in what love should never be. In Samuel's arms, Ella found not just a husband, but a partner who cherished her wholly. Their love, born from ashes, stands as a testament to the heart's capacity to mend and flourish anew. And in the quiet moments, Ella whispers to herself, "This is the happily ever after I always deserved."